The following is a segment from session 5 of the Honestly Better Mental Fitness Show. If you would like a list of all the segments and full sessions, please visit honestlybetterfitness.com/list.
Welcome to LH Industrial's Honestly Better Mental Fitness. I'm Mike Lomber. I'm the president of LH Industrial, standing in the middle of a breezeway in the shop in Tempe, Arizona, to get an idea of what we do behind us here. I found mental fitness a few years ago, and it changed my life. It's changed my family's life. And now we'll bring it to all of LH Industrial and recording it to put it out for us to hearing. Thank you for joining.
I want to talk about why people fail. For me, I went through the selections program for the Army Special Forces and the Green Berets, and the group that I started with was over 200 plus, probably close to 300 people that were all fit, all dedicated, all proven themselves already, all super motivated and excited. And at the end of the training, there was 26 people left. And there was no doubt in anybody's mind at the beginning that they were going to make it and they were going to go through it and they were never going to quit. And then that happened. And I think there's some lessons to learn in why. How do we have such good intentions for something and then end up failing, quitting, allowing ourselves to be thrown off of it? And I think even more interesting for me was when I was injured and got out, and then was a program director in the academy in charge of training other people and doing some selection process type stuff and figuring out like what are the key factors, because the 26 of us that made it at that point in training in there was big guys and little guys and nerdy guys and sporty guys, and you would look at this group of people and be like, huh, like why these 26 and not those other 200 in there? What are the core common factors in there that made this group make it and not the others? And I think there were, and so I spent years kind of digging into that, and then so being able to find who has those qualities and who doesn't. And then more importantly, how do you teach people, how do you train people for those qualities? And my experience of doing that, I had a lot of people that sought me out to for training for difficult things, for Ironmans, for a lot of military type stuff, for all sorts of really challenging things. And so then the question becomes, how do I train people to become more resilient in their life? What are the common factors among people that are more resilient and more not? And that's what we're going to talk about here today. You can't see it on the screen. If we got to bleep it out, we'll bleep it out later. But my thing really here is, how do you become unfuckable? Like, that's the word to me, right? Like, nobody can mess with you. Nobody can fuck with you. Like, how do you be this place? And those were the ones that like made it or didn't. Like, everyone failed. Everyone went through difficult trials and struggles. The ones that got knocked down and got back up and got knocked down and got back up and got knocked down and got back up, like those are the ones that eventually made it. So what is it that somebody gets knocked down and says, I'm done? And what is it that I don't? That's what we're going to talk about. How do you become unfuckable in your life? And our first one is be here now. Now is rarely ever so unbearable that you can't go on. We were just talking in the weather, right? Like, oh God, winter, like when is it ever going to end? And if it was you knew it was going to end tomorrow, you'd be like, woohoo, celebrate. Like suddenly I'm here. And it's not that today, like I can't handle one more day. It's the thought of, oh my gosh, I have 2 more months of this. I can't handle 2 more months of this. Someone said 2 more days. Yeah, got it. I can handle 2 days, but 2 months. And we live in the present, but we carry the baggage of the past and the future in here. And when I hear this, I hear like relationships as well, right? It's relationships, 20-year marriages break at some point. And it's not because any one day was so terrible. It's the thought or the future of that this will continue in there. So learning to stay in the present moment. And the quote I brought in here is, don't question in the dark the decisions made in the light. And so what that means is when we're suffering internally, those are the moments that we decide that, you know, we don't want to move on, and we can't move on. And so hold fast to it. There's a funny saying that we used to use and talk about, that you probably heard it, of how do you eat an elephant, right? And you're sitting there and you have this giant thing in front of you. It's one bite at a time, right? One step at a time, one day at a time. How do you make it through a long winter? Whether this is a literal long winter or whether this is a metaphorical long winter of your life. It's one day at a time. And rarely, like, is our suffering about now, like truly like this present moment, like right now, is it so bad? Usually not. It's usually the thoughts of the future or the past in there. And that totally got bared out in our training. For us, for me, and some of my worst moments in there, it was like, make it to lunchtime. Like, if in my training program was 3 years long. And I don't know if you can imagine just being in intense suffering for 3 years. We described it, I could sit here and describe a day, and that day would feel like an eternity. And then, you know, that day is going to be followed by the next, by the next, by the next. And it's never really in one single moment is it impossible, but it's the thought of the future. And so when you're struggling in that future, you zoom yourself back out to the present moment today.